All right, we're back here at Lucky Chances, and boy, do I look tired today. We're gonna put in a tournament today. It's Friday, November 16th, and they've got their main event for this tournament series that they're doing. It's an $1,110 buy-in. There's 3 different starting days. Today's day 1A, Saturday is day 1B, and Sunday is day 1C. So we're gonna change it up a little bit. We usually come on Sundays to do these kinds of tournaments, but because I have some time today on a Friday, I'm going to try to give it a go. I expect the field to be smaller than the other 2 weekend days, but with that, we typically get some of the, I guess, more experienced players. So we'll just have to see if we can navigate through the field today. All right, before we hop into the tournament, I do have one pretty interesting hand to share from last night. I put in a short session here at Lucky Chances, and there was one hand where the effective stack sizes were about $630, I believe. The under the gun plus 1 player makes it $15. It folds to me with King Queen offsuit, I believe King of Hearts, Queen of Diamonds, and I go ahead and make a 3-bet to $55. And it folds back to the initial raiser, and he makes the call. So we go heads up to a flop of Ace 10-5 Rainbow. And he goes ahead and checks it, as to be expected. And I go ahead and make a continuation bet here. I bet $40, a little bit of a down bet. And he goes ahead and makes the call. And the turn brings an offsuit 7. So it's still a rainbow board. He checks yet again. We still have 4 outs to the nuts. And because we've got a pretty strong range advantage here, being the 3-better in position, I think is really key in this hand. Especially having King Queen in my hand, I think it makes it a lot less likely that he has a premium ace, like an Ace King, Ace Queen. And we have all of those hands in our range, as well as pocket aces and pocket 10s. And so I think this is a perfect spot to continue here. And that's what I go ahead and do. I make it $130, and he makes the call. The river pairs the 7. And he goes ahead and checks it again. And looking at my hand with King High, obviously not much showdown value here, given that it was a pretty dry board. There weren't too many flush or straight draws out there. So he's either got a 10 or some sort of a weak ace. And as I mentioned, this is actually a really good hand to kind of highlight where, you know, your strategy is so dependent on things like stack size, position, and range advantage. As I mentioned, I clearly have a big range advantage here based on kind of the lead up to the river here. And so he's got about $400 back, and I go ahead and just jam it all in, and he tanks for quite a bit, and he eventually makes the fold. So that goes ahead and shows where you know, if you kind of rep a hand throughout and it makes sense, that you can definitely kind of pick up a pot without ever making a hand. So we chalked that one up, and that was essentially the only one hand I think that was worth noting from the session. We go ahead and book a $292 win, so a small win, played for like maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours. Wanted to get some rest before coming here today. So yeah, let's go and hop into that tournament.
Monday at noon.
Monday at noon.
Because, you know, people give you this paper stuff, you can hardly see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you guys are good to go, let me see your ID. First and last name on the badge.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, it's been a long day. We've made it to day 2, as you can see up here. And we're going to come back Monday to try to see if we can take this one down. All right, it's Saturday, November 17th, one of the 2 rest days before we get back to day 2 of the tournament on Monday the 19th. So we're stopping by one of my other local favorites at a place called Tonka. This is one of the places I come to pretty often when I want a non-adult beverage. Boba is definitely one of my favorite things to kind of sip on when I'm not having a Moscow Mule. So I'll put a link in the description box below for this particular location. They're really known for like their matcha series of drinks, so I definitely recommend that. They've been open for about a year. They're just kind of in the Richmond district as well. And right next door is a pretty popular sandwich place as well. It's called Lou's Cafe or Lou's Sandwiches. So definitely check that place out as well if you're in the area. Some really good spots for some drinks and some sandwiches. All right, so let's go and recap a few hands from our time at the tournament yesterday. The first interesting hand comes when the blinds were 200, 300 with a 300 big blind ante. The under the gun makes it 900. We wake up with pocket queens in middle position, and then we 3-bet it to 2300. We've got about 23,000 in our stack, so we put in about 10% there. The hijack then cold calls, and the cutoff then puts in a 4-bet to 12,000. So a pretty large 4-bet there. He's got us covered in this particular spot. The under the gun folds the hand, and then it gets back to us. I think it's a bit of a decision. Obviously we can be way behind against aces or kings here. But with a hand like queens, fairly early on in the tournament, I usually like to kind of go for these spots rather aggressively. I mean, there's always the chance of re-entering, which is not really like something I want to do, but it's always kind of there in case that comes up. But given that it's early on and we've got a pretty premium hand here, I go ahead and just jam it all in for 23,000. The hijack begrudgingly folds, and then the cutoff then goes ahead and makes the call. And so we go heads up, and the hijack I folded ace king, and the cutoff actually turns over ace king as well. So we're looking pretty decent shape here, and the board runs out jack 9 4 8 9. So we go ahead and scoop that 50K pot. We start the tournament off with 25,000 in chips, so definitely good to double up fairly early on in the tournament. All right, so next interesting hand comes when blinds are 200, 400 with a 400 big blind ante. The low jack makes it 1100. The hijack makes the call, and we're in the cutoff with ace of clubs, jack of spades. We go ahead and put in a 3-bet to 3600 here. I like playing these kinds of aces fairly aggressively when in position, so that's what I go ahead and do. And only the low jack makes the call. So we go heads up to a flop of king of spades, 5 of spades, 3 of diamonds. He checks it over to us, and we go ahead and make a down continuation bet of 2200, and he makes the call. The turn brings a king of diamonds, and he checks it over again to us. And while it's fairly a narrow range to be repping by betting here, I definitely feel that we have a lot of kings in our hand here, in the sense that we've got ace king and king queen suited type hands in our range here for sure, and we've still got aces potentially in our range. And so what I go ahead and do is I continue our story, and I bet 5,000, and he goes ahead and makes the quick fold. So I think this is a perfect case. I think I touched on it earlier in the cash game hand review, where kind of assessing your range in a specific spot is definitely helpful for navigating a hand. It's much harder for him to have ace king and a king in his hand there, and we can get him off a lot of smaller type pairs, which is what I think we did. Occasionally he may have ace queen here, but even then that's a hand that beats ours. So it's important to kind of understand your range and playing those kind of to your advantage based on kind of like the board and the texture. Our next interesting hand comes at the same blind levels. It's 200, 400 with a 400 big blind ante. There's a limper, and we're in the middle position with ace of spades, queen of diamonds, and we make it 1200 to go. The cutoff then 3-bets it to 3200. The limper makes the cold call, and I make the call as well. Planning to proceed fairly cautiously here, because the 3-better is a fairly tight player. So we go 3 ways to a flop of ace of clubs, king of spades, 4 diamonds, and it checks over to the 3-better, and he goes ahead and makes it 2500. The limper cold calls, and I think we've got a decent decision here. I feel like if we continue, it's very hard to improve and still feel good about our hand, because we could be up against ace, ace, king, king, or ace, king. So seeing as we kind of just made some chips from the previous hand, we go ahead and just lay this one down, and the 2 players then continue. The turn brings a 6 of diamonds, so it brings in a backdoor flush draw. It checks yet again to the cutoff, and he goes ahead and continues his story and bets 3,500. The limper again makes the call, and the river brings another 6, and it checks over to the cutoff again, and this time he jams it all in for about 5 or 6K, and the limper makes an insta-fold, and the cutoff actually shows pocket aces. So flops top set, river's a full house. We were never winning that hand, so definitely, again, really important to pay attention to ranges in these spots against player profiles. Most of the time I continue for at least one street with ace queen there, but you know, given that the board runs out ace king high, it's just very hard for us to be beating much there based on the hands that he's repping. Occasionally, you know, he can be bluffing with tens or jacks or something along those lines, but it's fairly unlikely in a multi-way pot. So just kind of make sure to pay attention again to different ranges and board textures, position, profile, that type of thing. All right, another interesting hand at the same level here, 200, 400, 400. There's an early position that makes it 1,200. A player makes the call, the button makes the call, and we're in the big blind with ace of clubs, king of spades. We go ahead and put in a 3-bet here to 5,600. And something really interesting happens here. Both the early position players make the cold call, and then the button goes ahead and jams it for 23K. So again, the hand started off with the early position raise, and the button had just flatted there. So in this spot, I gotta feel that you know, we're ahead and never really behind in this spot against the button. So we go ahead and just jam all in as well. We go over the top there for about 40 or 50K, and both the early position players fold, and the button indeed turns over pocket jack. So it's a race situation for us. Still feel pretty good about our shove because I can never really put him on aces or kings there. And so the board then runs out 8, 6, 3, jack, queen. So we go ahead and lose that one, unfortunately. I don't hate our play. Maybe we overplayed ace king slightly by jamming and calling there, but seeing that he had jacks, I still felt like it's an okay spot, especially in a tournament situation. But we do go ahead and lose that one. All right, so this next hand comes at 400, 800 with the 800 big blind ante. Our stack has dropped to about 21,000 at this point. So we need to start making some things happen. The under the gun player limps, and another early position limps as well. And we're in the cutoff, and we've got queen jack of diamonds. So we go ahead and put in a bet, a raise to 3,000, and only the under the gun player makes the call. And so we go heads up to a flop of 10 of diamonds, 8 of spades, 3 of diamonds. So we flop a gut shot plus a flush draw and 2 overs. And the player just leads into us for 5,600. I don't think too long, and I just get our entire stack in there, about 17 or 18K effective, and he makes the snap call. He turns over 8 deuce of diamonds, not ace deuce, 8 deuce. So we're behind in this spot, but we're both drawn to the same flush draw, and ours is bigger, so we need a little bit of help. And the board then runs out 5 of spades on the turn, and then ace of diamonds on the river. So we get the help that we need. We get a much needed double up, bringing our stack close to about 45, 50K again. So it's good to win that one. All right, so this next hand's pretty interesting as well, and a bit dramatic. We're playing 800, 1600, 1600. There's an under the gun player. He's a pretty good reg. I played a bunch with him in cash games. And he goes ahead and just opens for 16,000. So just 10x the big blind. He leaves himself about 14,000 back. So definitely repping a pretty strong hand. It doesn't look like it wants too much action. Then it folds all the way to us, and we've got pocket kings. And of course, really no decision here. We just go ahead and jam it. We cover him by a little bit. Our stack is about 50K or so. And of course, he makes the insta call, and he turns over pocket queens. And the flop, or the board, runs out queen 9-9. So we're feeling pretty disgusting at this point with that type of a flop. Then the turn brings a king. So he's then drawing to a one outer for the river, which unfortunately doesn't come for him, but good for us. It comes a 7 on the river, So we go ahead and scoop a pretty big pot, bringing us close to 80K, which is pretty strong at this particular point of the tournament. All right, yeah, so our starting day was 116 players. We're gonna play it down to 15. And at this point, there's about 27 players left in the tournament, and so our table breaks and we get moved to one of the 3 final tables. The blinds are now at 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. The middle position makes a min raise. I know this player pretty well as well. I played some house games growing up with him. You know, we're decent friends, you know, away from the poker table, but mostly kind of just more poker friends. And the small blind makes the call. And we're in the big blind with Queen 8 of spades, and we too make the call. So just a 2,000 additional, so pretty good price that we're getting there. We go 3 ways to a flop of Queen of diamonds, 7 of clubs, 6 of spades, and then it checks around. The turn brings a 5 of clubs, which brings a backdoor flush draw. And the small blind checks again. We've got Queen 8 here, so we've got top pair with an open-ended straight draw. We go ahead and lead for 8,000. Probably have the best hand most of the time, and if not, we've got some outs to redraw if needed. The early position player, the friend of mine, then goes ahead and jams it all in. I think it's somewhere in the nature of 32,000. And then it folds, the small blind makes a fold, it gets back to us. I think it's a fairly easy decision here. We've got about, I think we started the hand with maybe like 90,000. So we go ahead and make the call. And he turns over Jack 9 of clubs. So he turns a backdoor flush draw along with a gut shot, and the river comes a King of diamonds. So we scoop this pot here, bringing us to about 180,000. Definitely a good point to be at with now 26 players left. All right, so 2 more hands to report from the tournament from yesterday. Blinds are now at 1,500, 2,500, 2,500. I'm under the gun with pocket deuces, and I go ahead and just kind of mix it up and make a bit of a light open to 5,500, and only the middle position calls. We go heads up to a flop of 10 of clubs, 9 of spades, deuce of clubs, so there's a flop flush draw there, but we do make bottoms set. So we go ahead and continue. We bet 5,000. The player makes the call. The turn brings a 9 of hearts, which is a really good card for us. We make a full house here. And so we continue again for 10,000. And the river brings in the 8 of clubs. So the front door flush gets there. We don't stop betting. We go ahead and make it 25K. And this player then goes ahead and makes a min raise. She goes ahead and raises us to 50K. I've got about 55,000 left in my stack. I don't think there's too much value. Well, there's definitely value in terms of shoving my entire stack here, because most of the time this player should have a flush based on the way the hand's played out. But you know, tournaments are just a little bit different than cash games. It's very important to do a little bit of chip preservation, especially at this point of the tournament where we've got about, I think, somewhere around 20 players left. So we've, 5 more until the bubble. And so just to play it safe, I just make the call. In case for whatever reason she does have a bigger full house, and she doesn't. She turns over ace 5 of clubs, and we happily turn over the pocket deuces. So now our stack's pretty healthy. Again, we were hovering around that 130 to 180K mark, and this got us back to, I think, around 180K. So we're feeling pretty good as we kind of wind down to try to make it through the bubble. All right, so last interesting hand from the session. There's an early position raise. We're playing 15, 3, and 3. So he goes ahead and makes it 6,000 or 7,000. We just call with ace queen of spades. I like 3-betting here, definitely a percentage of the time, but as I said, with some of the incentives of trying to make it through the day and being so close, I definitely take the conservative route. I think at this point there's like 18 players left, so we're just waiting for a few more. And our stack is kind of just right in the middle of wanting to play kind of conservative but somewhat aggressive if a spot comes up. Nevertheless, we make the call, and 2 other players make the call as well. And so we go 4 ways to a flop of 4 of clubs, 7 of spades, 9 of spades. The initial raiser just jams it all in for, I think, around like 50K. Again, we've got around like 120K here, and we flop the nut flush draw. Seeing that we've got 15 outs with 9 flush outs and 6 overcards, I just don't think I can ever fold here with this kind of equity, even if there's like money bubble considerations. So we go ahead and just re-jam over him. The other two players fold, and the player shows pocket tens. So a pretty good spot for us. All of our outs are live. And so the turn then brings a 7, an offsuit 7, and the river brings an offsuit deuce, I believe. So we don't make our flush and we don't make a larger pair, and this player survives. If we had knocked him out, we would have been 2 away from the money, but now we're down to one of the 3 shortest stacks with 2 tables left. All right, so we were hovering around 50 to 60K while we were on the bubble. We did shove one time and did not get called, which was good. But somehow we found a way to just hold on. There was another short stack sitting to our right. He had around like I think 45K as well. So the both of us were able to make it through. One of the players had got knocked out on the other table. Not sure how that played out, but fortunate for us, we were able to kind of sneak through with a rather short stack, and yeah. All right, yeah, so we'll come back on Monday at noon to try to see if we can continue to run it deep in this tournament. I'm going to take the rest of today off. I was considering playing some cash games, but I think it's just better to kind of rest and relax a little bit. We did play about 9 or 10 hours yesterday. Probably going to do some resting as well on Sunday. So we're going to try to get ourselves mentally prepared and well rested come Monday. We will be coming with about 59,000 in chips, which is only 15 big blinds. Not the ideal stack, but anytime you're still in a tournament, you've got a chance. So we'll see if we can run it up and try to bring, you know, maybe a tournament win onto this vlog.
Could be. I really would like in the Bay Area for casinos. Yeah, God, seriously. So they have like a huge concert hall like full of exactly.
All right, the dream will have to wait another day, unfortunately. We are confirmed busto in this tournament. Yeah, so the last hand, we have about 39,000 left. Blinds are at 2, 4, and 4. We're 2 away from the big blind, so it's time to make a move. And we wake up with ace-5 of diamonds, and we go ahead and just shove it all in there for the 39,000 left in our stack. It folds around to the small blind, and only he makes the call. He turns over 5 of spades, 5 of hearts. So we're in a little bit of rough shape, but the board runs out on the flop. Ace of hearts, 3 of hearts, king of clubs. So feeling good about that flop, given that there's only 1 5 left in the deck. The turn then brings a 7 of hearts, so he turns a flush draw, and then the river is indeed a 10 of hearts. So we get knocked out in 63rd place. We cash for 1990. Buy-in was 1110, so profit of $880. Not too bad. If you look at the hourly, we played about like 10 hours in this particular tournament, so $88, $90 an hour. Overall pretty good. Definitely disappointing to not make it deeper, but anytime you can cash in a tournament in a field of 560 plus players, should feel pretty okay. So we're going to go ahead and edit this vlog, but also edit the vlog that's coming before this one, which is vlog number 4. So I apologize for being a little bit behind, but we'll get that out. And yeah, thanks for the support.